Hello, everyone, and welcome to our 28th Annual Connections Conference, the virtual sessions. If you missed our in-person conference in May, this is going to be a treat for you to be able to get some of our insights without having to actually fly in for it. Before we get started, I'd like to thank our sponsors for their generous support for the entire year's worth of this conference, including Cox Communities, NICE, Skybell, Ubiety, Cardinal Peak, Ivani, Kata Smart Lock Solutions, Quickset, Rapid Response Monitoring, Alarm.com, Shelly, SmartThings, Schlage, Johnson Controls, Beckler, Calix, Blue Salve Partners, Medea, Cognitive, Responder, Savant, Trident IoT, Zalient, Affiliated Monitoring, Moen, Origin, VectorSolve, and Z-Wave Alliance. Today, we're going to be talking all about home services, and we're starting off right now with a discussion about the market trends involved in home services, including not only the broadband as sort of the base of those services, but also the drivers for them and the market size. After that, we'll be talking with Carrie Small of ADT. She's a Senior Director of Monitoring and Product Engineering, and that will be our visionary speaker, moderated by our own Elizabeth Parks, the CEO or CMO and President of Parks Associates. Following that at 2:45 p.m., I will be leading a discussion with a panel on home services, familiarity, affordability, and value. That will be with several experts in the industry, such as Andrew Blyman, the EVP of North America of Tractive, Dan Goodman, the CEO and founder of Building 36, an Alarm.com company, Roel Peters, the co-founder and CEO of Roost Labs, and Jing Zhu, the Senior Director of Product Management at Wise. If you haven't spoken with me before, my name is Daniel Holcomb. I'm the Senior Analyst of Smart Home Research at Parks Associates. And today I want to talk a little bit about how broadband is the basis of the connected services in the home and how that is leading to different need states for consumers. And I want to talk a bit more about those need states and those drivers for home services and the white space that is filled by that, especially when it comes to multifamily properties. And then we'll talk a little bit about the market size for subscription services. Now, broadband is a foundation for all connected products and services to work. And it's really important to acknowledge the reality of modern living and the dependence on the internet. Consumers need fast, reliable broadband speeds. They expect it, and they are willing to pay for it. You can see that now 15% of all US households in our research show us having 1 gigabyte per second speed. And that's double the adoption of that speed in 2016. And now, the vast majority of consumers report internet speeds of 100 megabytes per second or higher. And we're seeing that as regulation has changed the definition of broadband, more consumers are going to be expecting faster speeds. Our research shows that while full-time remote work has decreased compared to 2022 levels, hybrid remote work is actually above where it was during the height of the pandemic. As of Q3 2022, 41% of US internet households had at least one remote worker in them. These remote working households, typically higher earning households, are very desirable tenants for multifamily properties as well, which have been using high broadband speeds and connectivity features to attract them and attract tenants overall. This includes offering high speed and reliable broadband, as well as more advanced amenities such as property-wide resident VLANs. We're also seeing an uptick of connected devices, with households now owning an average of 17 devices, and that includes an increase in smart devices. Most internet households own a router, a smart TV, and a smart speaker. These are all key connection points for a whole host of potential value-added services, some of which will be necessary to this new modern connected lifestyle. In addition, we're seeing smart devices such as like leak detection and other safety and security devices being implemented. Now, we've heard a lot this year about the importance of professional support in the smart home sector. Partly, this is because of return rates, but mostly because of the complexity growing in the home of managing all these connection points. The involvement of tradespeople and professional services are crucial in installing and maintaining more complex home systems that can't be done on a DIY basis, or would be very, very taxing to do on a DIY basis. Device setup and integration with other products, in addition to device management, continues to be a challenge to solve. Now, Parks Associates research shows that the top 3 reasons for smart home device returns, including difficulty with the physical installation, difficulty learning to use device features, and issues configuring device settings. And so that is as a result, there are many smart home device returns that are actually quite high. We're also seeing that U.S. households are experiencing data and privacy issues in more of a segment of the population than before. In Q4 2018, we saw that 36% of consumers reported experiencing a privacy security issue in the last 12 months. In 2023, that percentage was 54%. So there's definitely a great need to address these issues through other value-added services, including value-added services over the router. In addition, we see consumers reporting all sorts of issues around connectivity. The networking being slow, coverage gaps, and difficulty connecting are all issues, but even more pronounced for apartment dwellers. Overall, half of apartment residents report some kind of network issue. And to dive a little bit more into the multifamily side, when we ask MDU residents what is important to them, connectivity is at the top of the list, and in more than one way. You can see some of the differentiation in the chart on your screen. And even about 40% say they consider it important or very important to have properly provided smart home devices. So there's definitely an opportunity for home services to approach multifamily property managers to give them options that will appeal to their residents. And we're seeing that the services that can be offered across the multifamily housing space are many. And there's several adjacent industries with an emphasis on certain technology solutions like Wi-Fi and networking, smart thermostats, smart locks and access control systems, AI video cameras, and water leak detectors. Now, I want to talk a little bit more about some of the different options here, but I want to start off with security and video, which are leading the home service space. Consumers are increasingly utilizing professional monitoring even without full security systems. Currently, 43% of households have some security solution, and the majority, 31%, are security systems. Parks Associates research shows that 5% of all U.S. internet households have a paid self-monitoring service, typically video storage and or interactive controls and alerts. So we're seeing that not only is professional monitoring still important, but we are seeing the uptake of alternative monitoring that will be a value-added service that smart home device players can get in on the action with as well. While security may lead in smart home services, there are also offerings related to things like HVAC monitoring, aging in place, fire monitoring, networking, and installation and support services. Many of these can be offered through insurance companies, security dealers, or even HVAC service tech companies, or through smart home as a service companies, such as Daisy or Oliver IQ. They can include hardware as a service, software as a service, or both. In fact, the smart home itself is the center of new services geared towards unique solutions as demand from consumers to manage the home in a smart way increases. Beyond some of the companies I've already mentioned, like Oliver IQ and Daisy, we'll be talking a little bit on the panel later with several of the companies listed here: Tractive, Roost, Wise, and Building 36. And there are even some companies in this space offering services that we are not talking to today, such as OnTech, Noonlight, ShipShape, and HelloTech. And consumers show a willingness to pay for these services if they offer a good value. Parks Associates research shows that more than half say they're willing to pay for a service where HVAC dealers remotely monitor the health of their heating and cooling equipment 24/7, notifying them if issues occur and advising of maintenance needed to prevent major problems. Over half are willing to pay at least $5 for the service, and slightly less are willing to pay $10 for that service. So there's definitely a significant opportunity there for HVAC and device platform OEMs to get in on the action, highlighting energy saving benefits, for example, being one potential offering, providing user-friendly interfaces, educating users about energy efficiency, and collaborating with utility companies while offering personalized insights and recommendations. So how big is the market here? Well, it's very big. Consumers are willing to use subscription services such that 94% of consumers tell us that they have at least one subscription. Now, I want to caution that while that bodes well for the business model, companies would do well to make sure that the offering is comprehensive enough to be compelling. Too many subscriptions with too few benefits, or too many benefits that go unused or don't have a value proposition behind them, can lead to subscription fatigue and attrition. Now, on the business side, we have seen the rise of subscription services to bring in returning revenue and tiered offerings to convert consumers at different price points. Creating bundles, and indeed creating the right bundles, is especially useful for success in a number of verticals, particularly the entertainment vertical. But we can also see the opportunity for partnerships with other verticals and with other providers. If you offer hardware, you can partner with a software provider, for example. If you need a particular professional installation, you can partner with professional providers. And so it's very essential that smart home companies get in on this game, because the subscription economy is not going away. And as the industry becomes more saturated, there's a need to find other ways to differentiate oneself and also provide returning revenue beyond simply just the device adoption. We're in the subscription economy, and that economic model is only going to grow. If you'd like to learn more about this too, you can check out our quantified consumer research, which is based on our quarterly survey of 8,000 to 10,000 households. And we use those insights to create reports like this one, the subscription memberships and bundling, which talks a lot about the consumer adoption of paid membership programs, spending on memberships, and interest in new bundled services. You can check out our website, reach out to one of our business development team members, or scan the QR code on your screen at the moment. Up next, we have our Visionary Spotlight with ADT, moderated by our own Elizabeth Parks.
Welcome back. Thank you so much for joining us today. It's really interesting right now to follow the home services market. In general, this rise in service-based offerings creates new opportunities everywhere in all the different markets that we're researching at Parks Associates. And we're going to continue to see a world driven by services. So thank you so much to Daniel for sharing some of Parks Associates' most recent consumer and industry research. I'm Elizabeth Parks, the president and CMO of Parks Associates, and I'm so excited today to welcome Carrie Small, the Senior Director of Monitoring and Engineering at ADT. ADT is the powerhouse player when it comes to delivering professionally monitored security services, and I'm so happy to have Carrie share some of her perspective. Parks Associates research shows that now 43% of internet households have some kind of security solution. 31% of those are security systems, and the vast majority have interactive services attached to them. Overall, we're showing 22% of all internet households in the United States having some kind of professionally monitored service from a security system. This is an enormously large market that represents billions and billions of dollars, and one that we're tracking on a regular basis. Today, we're going to be talking about the value of professional monitoring and beyond, those layers of value that are getting added, the technology advancements, the integration of smart home devices, and the role of customer support and the experience. This conversation extends from the ones we've been having earlier today, focused in on the connected health device market, as well as professional monitored security and the discussions about AVS-01. So we want your participation. If you have questions, please go ahead and put them in the comments or the Q&A box in the Swap Carton platform, and I will integrate them into the conversation. So I want to start off by welcoming Carrie. Thank you so much for joining us. Let's go ahead and start. If you could provide a little bit of your background about what you do, your role at ADT, and we'll go from there.
Thanks for having me. My name is Carrie Small. I'm the Senior Director of Monitoring, Product, and Engineering. I've been in the industry for about 8 years. When I first joined, I think I'm about to say a comment that I think many listeners can relate to. I was told that once you start in the security industry, you'll never get out. And that's a comment that I found myself repeating to a bunch of interns yesterday. So you may leave the industry itself, but your passion for protecting people never actually goes away. I've been with ADT for about 5 years. Previously, I worked for a company called iView Now, which is a video verification startup. They were acquired by ADT in 2019. And when they were, I was tasked with leading the rebuilding and expanding of those ancillary signal services in the cloud, which has resulted in a suite of patented processes we at ADT call the System Monitoring and Response Technology, or SMART monitoring. Most recently, about 8 months ago, I transitioned to the role of product leader for ADT, for all of ADT monitoring. So I'm really excited to be here today. Thank you for having me.
Sorry, thank you so much for that intro and for your contribution to date at ADT. Let's go ahead and start off and talk a little bit about the shift in value and some of the things that we're seeing with monitoring services. We are extending that value well beyond the front door and the windows of the home. We now have services, at the perimeter of homes and businesses. We have this role of video playing a big value there in terms of consumers have a greater understanding of that environment, and then that extension to monitored services. So tell us a little bit about some of the things you're seeing with this value expansion taking place.
Absolutely. So professional monitoring has always meant just an additional layer of security and protection for the customer and peace of mind in emergencies. But as we grow in this space, I want to go back to, like, right now, especially at ADT, our mission is safe, smart, and sustainable, protecting what matters most, delivering innovative, customer-focused technologies, and making the lives of our customers and their communities better. So to your point, that that doesn't stop, at their door and their windows, right? So we're looking to connect the end users, agents, and emergency personnel with critical information and the most information that we can get from the edge. And that extends into the community itself. So we want to look to monitor the perimeter of locations and add value to the customers by protecting them even when they're not at home. And then add additional values through lifestyle monitoring. Don Young mentioned that we're now monitoring flood sensors and have partnerships with State Farm. So I think that as professional monitoring continues to grow, that we provide more value for the consumers by collecting more comprehensive data from the edge, and then being able to not only to protect but inform our customers of the status of all of those things in their ecosystems.
And the things you're talking about, they're not just about that end user. Of course, you've got the customer at the other side paying for the service, but this really is ending up being a public-private partnership, given those responses coming from public safety associations. The police, the emergency responders, the fire, all of this takes really a lot of coordination and orchestration, particularly in understanding the priorities of different alerts and alarms.
100%. So we have consumers, but as the monitoring product leader, I actually believe that I have three customers. I have the monitoring agents themselves. We want to deliver state-of-the-art technology for them to be able to handle those signals and meet our customers where they are, oftentimes in some very scary and the worst moments of their day. And then also public safety, right? Because public safety's goal is to protect communities, and our goal is to notify public safety so that they can provide that response to our actual consumers. So you hit the nail on the head with partnership, and I was so pleased to hear Don Young speak on the AVS-01 panel, where he mentioned that we were ready to go with AVS-01, and the push, of course, is roll that out as soon as possible. But all of the monitoring leaders came together and agreed that partnership with public safety is just as important. And we've spent weeks going to every PSAP that we're connected to and making sure that they were aware of those scores and aware of what we're doing, so that they can best protect our customers. And sometimes, I heard another mention of education being just as important, and I completely agree. Educating our customers, but also educating public safety. Protecting our communities really is a collaborative effort. And the more information that we can get from things that we connect to our customers' locations, the more information we have for better collaboration.
Yeah, and maybe we can talk a little bit more about AVS-01. There's a lot going on with this, and we really applaud ADT and Rapid Response, as well as many of the other security players in monitoring and services, along with the associations driving this forward. So can you give us a little bit more understanding about AVS-01? We heard a little bit from Don in that previous session, but go ahead and share a little more with us, if you would.
Sure. So AVS-01 is a new standard put out by the Monitoring Association, and it was a collaborative effort across the industry. A committee was put together by TMA, which included law enforcement representation, to have a standard methodology of scoring alarms so that public safety could prioritize their response accordingly. And the number one driving factor here is really want to understand if there's human presence so that we can escalate that. And then from there, increase in levels by confirmation of a threat to property. And then, of course, the highest response level being confirmed threat to life and property. So I really think that this is a big thing for our industry. We've had professional monitoring is not new by any means. So for all these years leading up until this moment in time, we've just been sending, as an industry, alarms into the police stations or the public safety answering points and an alarm is an alarm is an alarm, right? And then it was mentioned that the false alarm rate is in the high 90s. I think historically it has been around 98%. I think it's somewhere in the 95% now, or definitely between 90 and 95. So with that, there becomes alarm fatigue, right? I saw earlier that there was a sheriff quote that said they become callous by the alarm. Well, that's never something that we want, right? Because that moment that a high priority alarm comes in and there's alarm fatigue, we're not protecting our communities the way that we've all promised to do that. So I think that sending these scored alarms and having all alarms across the entire industry come in with a standard score is really going to improve response time. It improves our partnership with public safety, and it allows us to build a greater trust in all of the parties involved.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that maybe in the past we've heard from public safety that technology or security systems and really might be considered a nuisance, and a real problem. I know when I attended the Monitoring Association meeting last year, I heard from the chiefs of police across fire, emergency, and police response that they really are looking to technology to help them solve some of these issues. That they've got a number of factors that are headwinds in terms of be able to get the right response out there with their own labor shortages, costs, and the different factors that they have to navigate. And so it is a clear message to the industry, the security industry, as well as the technology players out there, that this is a need. It needs to happen. This is an evolution where technology can change the outcomes. And when we're talking about people's livelihood, it really is a critical point. So that's one of the reasons we really like to bring a lot of attention to AVS-01 and that educational component, making sure people understand what are we talking about and why is this so important, not just for that individual consumer, but for all of our communities as well. We'll come back a little bit to AVS-01, but I want to get back to just the transformation of security services right now, with pro monitoring and pro install really competing with this DIY world. Ring and the various companies who have come in with DIY install and then various offerings around monitoring have expanded the market. We've definitely seen that within our research, and it's created a new set of consumers. It's created new sets of expectations as well. And so tell us a little bit about what ADT is doing in terms of meeting their customer needs these days.
Sure. So ADT has a DIY offering as well. We think that it's important to meet our customers' needs and solve their problems. So with a DIY offering of our own, if our consumers feel more comfortable installing their own systems, then they can do that. And with DIY systems and professional monitoring on top of that, they can receive the same professional monitoring services and protection that they would even if with a pro install. I think that important thing, if we go back to education, communication, and collaboration with our customers, is to understand what our customers' pains are, and then understand the customer's behavior, and then have a clear path to enhancing their systems as necessary. So what does that mean? If we have somebody who wants to have a DIY system, and maybe that's working fine for them, but then they don't have their perimeter protected, or they want outdoor cameras, but they can't install those themselves, then we have a do it for me option as well. And we can transfer that customer over to have, a pro install or partially pro install. So I think that what's most important when there's so many options out there for our customers is that we understand what's valuable to them and find a way to be able to give that to them. And then provide the same level of monitoring services on top of how that install happened.
Yeah, and I think that customer choice and the number of options is definitely, like I said, created a different segment of consumers, and a segment who might think they want to do it themselves, and then they don't, right? There's a reality here that comes with installing a system on your own. And sometimes that complexity, we definitely see that in our research, pushes people back to the pro install. But regardless, they're looking for that value that comes with premium professional monitored services. So maybe you can share a little bit more about how pro monitoring is evolving to expand and include more services as well.
Sure. So the smart monitoring services, the system monitoring and response technology, we have a suite of patented services that allow us to continue to connect new things from the edge, because the most important thing to us is to get additional information for situational awareness and priority response. So within our services, we have video verification. We have secure storage lockbox, so our customers can be feel secure that their data is their data, right? Any information that we collect from the edge, whether it's video, audio, the metadata from the devices that have been installed, however they were installed, we ingest that information and we store it. We don't want that. We don't want that information for more than serving our customers during an alarm event. That is the customer's data. So it's securely stored and then securely distributed through different paths to the end user, the agents, and also public safety electronically. One of the values that we're providing at ADT is removing the need for a phone call. So traditionally, professional monitoring has required agents to pick up the phone and call the customer. Sometimes if they don't reach the customer, then they're calling a sequence of emergency contacts, and that takes up a lot of time. Once they finally reach somebody and they do have to dispatch, then a phone call is required to the PSAP. So one of the ways that we've been solving for that is end user notifications. We have a tool called Alarm Messenger, a service called Alarm Messenger, where our customers and their emergency contacts simultaneously receive a notification of the alarm. And they have the ability to make decisions about that alarm, chat with one another. They can cancel, they can request police. And if they request police, it goes to an agent as an already verified alarm, verified by the end user. And then there's another moment where a phone call traditionally would have been required. And in this case, we have ADT NG911, which is electronic alarm delivery into the PSAPs. So it's another point in which we were able to remove the phone call. And the way that this platform is set up is it's to process ancillary signals. So we're talking about alarm signals right now, but anything new that we connect, we can have it come into this monitoring. So ADT is going out with Trusted Neighbor, which is community monitoring, allowing trusted individuals to be able to unlock the door to enter your home for whatever reason that you need that to happen, to check on your animals, leave a package, check on your water, whatever the case may be. And we're able to get all of that information and pull it in to provide bigger service to a wider group of people. So now at this point, we're not only protecting you, but we're giving the option and the ability for you to live in your secure environment that ADT is providing you and your community.
Well, and it's really interesting the shifts that have occurred throughout really the whole home environment. But when you're looking at safety and security, we see that with the security systems, and now it's really the access points and the doors. And I do think that in the months and next probably 18 months to 36 months, we're going to see a lot of new innovation that's coming in through the access control systems and just the door locks and that change there. So thanks for sharing that new announcement on that neighborhood program. We've been watching that as well. Retaining the customer is of critical importance for any service provider, right? So that you can continue to get that revenue, but also delight the customer, keep them engaged. So can you share some of the things that ADT is doing to ensure you have that retention and growth, and potentially picking up some switchers? That's an area that we look at very closely, those people who are moving between services and why, and then, where are they going and how much are they spending?
I think that it all comes back to adding value and then communicating and educating the customers on that value, making them feel safe and secure. And then once you have the customer's confidence and trust, then then you have opportunity for growth. You can add on new things to so we might have a customer that just wants a basic door contact and alarm system, and then once they get it, we can educate them on video verification and what that means in the industry, and what that mean video verified alarms, what that means to law enforcement. Then they start to gain that peace of mind to understand that, okay, even if I'm not home, a video verified alarm will receive priority response. And now alarm scoring will allow us to appropriately score the alarm. And, if I have a door lock, then that takes away the worry that maybe when I'm on vacation, you know, somebody that I know can come and check on my home. So we've got all of these new values that we're adding on. And I think that it really comes down to collaboration, having a true collaborative relationship with our customers, taking the feedback that we receive from them seriously, taking the voice of the customer seriously, and continuing to provide value, understanding their needs, and then filling those needs.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of this value is extended from the devices that can get attached to the system. There's, a great opportunity for incremental revenue, but also the seamless integration and this whole home experience. I mean, that's something we've been talking about. My mom's had this vision back in the late 80s of the whole home being connected. And I think we finally are getting there, especially around some of the things that you all are doing. So can you share a little bit more about the integration of devices, where you see this taking us? Is there a move away from security, or just adding a lot more value as we add different ecosystems in the home into the mix with the system?
I don't think there's a move away from security. Sorry for the interruption. I don't think there's a move away. I think that we're not going to get away from that, right? People want their home protected, protect what matters most, and what matters most to people is not the home itself, it's what's inside of it, right? So that security is always going to be there. But I think that smart home, and as technology increases and as consumers start to get more tech savvy, then we have an opportunity to make those smart home connections. We starting with door locks and entry points and garage door openers. But like, honestly, we can connect to anything. We can anything that we can receive a signal from. I think if there's ADT people on the call, they'll probably roll their eyes, but I've said, we can monitor your toaster if it'll send us a signal. So like, I think that as smart homes, like as smart devices continue to pique the interest of our consumers, that we would have the ability to grow in that space. Just think about like the refrigerators now. We can notify the customers. This maybe isn't about monitoring during an emergency event, which historically has been and still is very, very important to us. I think that now we have our customers here, we're protecting them. Every second counts in those emergency events, but it's more than that. We can notify them if there's a water leak. We can notify them of, other HVAC systems could be something that could be monitored in the future. So I think that the sky is the limit, not to sound cheesy, but we're not going to go backwards, right? So anything that can send a signal, we'll be able to detect and monitor in the future. It's just understanding what kind of information do our customers want, right? What do they want to be notified of? The other thing is that it's not just about home security. We can give our customers protection wherever they are. So mobile safety features when they're on the go, right? Being able to call ADT to monitor your walk. Hey, I'm going on a walk. If I don't check back in this amount of time, give me a call. And then that call happens and we're able to connect to their exact location and understand their needs. Sometimes their needs is just, hey, I'm walking through a dark alley, stay on the phone with me. Or, sometimes it's, hey, I need 911, and we're able to give the exact location and more information than them calling 911 and sitting on hold. So I think that it's the home and beyond.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're doing a lot of work focused around personal safety and security and the services that can come along with that. It's a crazy world out there, and we've seen consumers really look to technology. We just got back some fresh data from the field showing the adoption of smart trackers going from 8% to 11%. With that 3% increase represents about 4 million households who went out and got one of these devices. And then when we ask them, what are you using this tracker for? A lot of it is for their children, right? So the families, the people with kids sending their kids to school are sending those trackers in their backpacks or wherever to keep track of them. And there's a real peace of mind there, and there's absolute willingness for parents to be paying for the understanding that their kids are safe, particularly in a school environment where we've seen all sorts of issues there with violence and tragedy. So really interesting comments, Carrie. I really love speaking with you. We're at the end, but I want to give you the opportunity to share any final thoughts, maybe if you want to touch on the customer experience or support, all the things that you're talking about really emphasize the role of the network, and how the complexity is just going to continue to grow, even with products getting better and better, more reliability. There's still a lot of complexity for a consumer. And so that support and experience, we think, is definitely an important part of any kind of service going into the home right now. But would love for you to comment on anything you'd like to share for short or long term, or about the experience consumers have at the end.
Thank you. So I think that we have a real opportunity as an industry to continue to provide value to our customers. One thing that I'm really proud of about working at ADT, and specifically in monitoring, is that we own our entire ecosystem, and we own the monitoring centers and the technologies, and we have, are able to seamlessly provide that service across the entire workflow of alarm events and anything else that we monitor. We're able to swiftly adopt new standards because we believe every second counts, and we measure every alarm and the response time. We also measure the feedback from the customer, and we have a robust customer feedback program, and we take that very seriously. And when we receive any kind of negative surveys, it's responded to by our leadership. So the seriousness of this really goes through all levels at ADT. And the ADT has been around for 150 years, and the tenure we have many people who have actually worked here for decades. So I think that we're all really passionate about this, and I think that everyone in the industry is. I think as we move forward as an industry, that we should continue that strong partnership with public safety, because we need to be able to get that priority response in alarm events. But we also need to continue to have a collaboration with our customers and understand what types of technologies are our customers using, and be able to grow our offerings based on that. Also, one last note is that all of those completely integrated experience and the ecosystem and the tenure of our monitoring centers has allowed us to become Monitoring Center of the Year this year, and we worked really, really hard at that. And we're super proud of it. And I think that I would just encourage everybody in the industry to collaborate with one another, because we do all have the same consumers. We're competing. We're competing to get those consumers. But what is our primary goal? To keep people safe when it matters most, and to priority response when every second counts. Thanks,
Great,
Elizabeth.
Carrie. Yeah, thank you so much. Those are great final comments, and I really appreciate you taking the time to join us and share a lot of your experience and insights on what's going on with professional monitored security. So thank you very much. We know your time's valuable, and we do appreciate you. Thanks for being here.
Thank you very much.
Great. And so if you give us just a minute, we will be right back with our next session, Home Services, Familiarity, Affordability, and Value. Thank you for joining us.
All right, well, welcome back, everyone. And we just had a really great, talk with Elizabeth Parks and Carrie Small. It was really interesting to hear about, how the, value proposition goes beyond simply just security and includes services like fire monitoring and notifications. We're going to talk a little bit more about home services for my panel today, familiarity, affordability, and value. We're also going to talk a little bit about some of the ways in which different service models are offered. And if you haven't, if you're just joining us now, my name is Daniel Holcomb. I'm the Senior Analyst of Smart Home Research with Parks Associates. Today, we'll be talking about the pricing models and strategies that bring consumers in, and different tiers that can be built for consumers, as well as the critical role of service providers and how these service providers can solve different use cases. And then we'll talk a little bit about the future of connected homes, bringing more consumers in beyond the, adoption level that we're currently seeing, as well as what trends are out there and what new services will be provided. We have a great panel with us today from Tractive, Building 36, Roots Labs, and Wise. I'm going to give each one of them a chance to introduce themselves, starting with Andrew. Could you take some time to introduce yourself and tell us a little about your company?
Sure. Thank you, Daniel. My name is Andrew Blyman. I lead the North American business for Tractive. Tractive is the largest provider of GPS tracking and health monitoring devices for dogs and cats. We have over 1.1 million subscribers, and our devices connect via cellular connectivity, Bluetooth, and Wi-Fi. Prior to Tractive, I have worked in connected devices in the pet industry for many years, and also in the wildlife conservation space. So monitoring pets or animals in very remote locations. Tractive provides peace of mind for pet owners. The idea is that you can know your pet's exact location if they go missing and retrieve them yourself in real time via the device on the pet and the free app on your phone. We also have a host of health monitoring features. So the ability to track your pet's activity, sort of Fitbit style, but also monitor your pet's sleep. So get alerted if there is a troubling trajectory or change in your pet's sleep patterns, more sleep interruptions, which are often a proxy for pain or the onset of a new condition. Our European office is in Austria, and that's where we were founded. And our North American office is based in Seattle. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Andrew. And now, Dan, I'd like you to talk a little bit about yourself and about your company.
Sure. Thank you. So hi, everybody. I'm Dan Goodman. I am the CEO and founder of Building 36 Technologies. We're actually an Alarm.com company. Our charter inside the Alarm.com family of companies is that we are responsible for kind of two main areas. One is what I would call trade-specific products. So we make Alarm.com smart thermostats. We make the smart water valve and meter, water sensors, and then a whole bunch of software that goes with that, right? So we're doing things like analytics and identifying broken HVAC systems and identifying leaks inside a home. And then secondarily, we're looking after a channel of professional trades that is a new channel into the home outside of security dealers. So a lot of these critical systems need to be monitored and identified when they're broken, and getting the right people into the house to repair them is really what we're trying to deliver to end user customers. So prior to founding Building 36, I had co-founded radio thermostat companies. So we made the first Wi-Fi and Z-Wave thermostats for a lot of the connected world out there. And prior to that was in semiconductor space. So it's great to be here.
Thanks so much, Dan. And next, I'd like to go ahead and have Ruel Peters introduce himself as well as talk about Roost Labs.
Thank you, Dan, and really appreciate having me here. Ruel Peters, co-founder, CEO of Roost. We have developed a property telematics platform that is specifically designed to work with the insurance industry. So we partner with insurance carriers, commercial as well as personal lines carriers, to deliver a telematics platform to their policyholders. So on the right-hand side, you see our Protection 360 solution, which focuses on water leak detection and freeze alerting, specific for commercial properties. That gets tied together with professional monitoring as well. On the left-hand side, you see our offering for the residential space, where we combine water leak freeze detection. We combine that with a security solution. So you see some window door sensor, motion sensor, and keypad to deliver a comprehensive telematics platform to that policyholder.
Great.
Thank you.
And finally, Jing, would you introduce yourself and talk to us about Wise?
Yes, thank you, Daniel. Hi, everyone. This is Jing. I'm a senior director of product management at Wise. And for Wise, we are building the smart home IoT devices. And as you can see, we provide a very wide range of smart home devices, including thermostats, a smart scale, lock, and a lot of stuff. And our number one product line is the security smart cameras, and I'm in charge of like the smart the security subscription device subscription services, and including the self-monitoring plans, as well as we have the professional security plans. Very happy to join the panel today and looking forward to have a great discussion with everyone here.
Great. Well, thank you, panel, for introducing yourselves and giving us a little information about what your company does. And I want to first kind of start off by talking about pricing models and strategies. You're all focused on providing a service in some way through connected products and platforms. And of course, we've heard a lot about the fact that we have now reached sort of the mass market with going beyond sort of the early adopters and sort of real techie folks, and that we have now reached sort of the mainstream, crossing the chasm, so to speak. What's the value of services in the smart home, especially now that we've reached mass market? And what are consumers willing to pay for it? I'll start with you, Dan.
Sure. So it's really an interesting time with this. I feel like, the first products are out there. Here are these services that we're going to offer as part of a product, and the services are free, and we're going to figure out how to make money later. And it's just not a viable business. So we're looking at how do we take these IoT devices that we know need service charges, and how do you bundle them together with a valuable offering? And I know from Building 36 perspective, we're looking at a lot of things that are somewhat intangible services, right? When I sign up for a maintenance plan, which is essentially an insurance policy, right? That if I don't have something break in my house and I didn't use that, you've got the homeowner questioning what's the value of this service. So now if we can leverage IoT devices like a connected thermostat or a connected water valve or meter to look at, hey, I'm constantly engaging with this, I'm constantly using this app, it's this tangible reminder of this intangible service. And I think those are the pieces that consumers ultimately are willing to pay for, that they want that peace of mind, they want that comfort, they want that convenience, and it's tied to something kind of bigger that's almost peace of mind and value to the homeowner.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think in that regard, it almost is one of those things where consumers may not necessarily see the value of some of those things until they have something happen to them. So that does make a lot of sense. In that regard, then, Jing, and can you tell me a little bit about how you kind of show that value to the consumer from your perspective at Wise?
Yes, so that's a really good question. I think at Wise, we are seeing two values. So when talking about the smart home and the connectivities at home. So one is the convenience. So we would like to provide users, integrated their devices into one platform and be able to control from your mobile phone. But on top of that, I think the key is that, how do you provide the customizations and personalizations into people? What we call contextual based automation is really key to solving the extra miles or taking extra steps in for convenience. So what I mean by contextual based kind of automation is so think about it. You set up rule or you set up automation when you came home, turning on light for you. But when you are home late one day, or even for the daylight saving time switch, and then your rules is be able to, or your automation is be able to smart enough and to tell the differences, and then to be able to adjust the schedules for you. I think that's what we mean by customizations and the contextual automation. I think the second one is security monitoring. I think that's when you're talking about home, it's all about people's life. It's all about people's, very dear to their heart. So security monitoring is definitely one of the biggest values we see. Also, I think, in the current industry, we're providing the cloud storage as well as, be able to see watch the live views anywhere from your phone. But on top of that, how do you prevent the bad things happen? It's not about, telling them like the bad things already happened, but it's about, how do you do the predictions? How do you prevent the bad things happening from like ahead of time? So, with a lot of, integrations, a lot of innovations happening in the industry, we're able to do the video analysis and then to be able to do, anomaly detection. I think those are, great values, extra values that we're trying to provide into to the security monitoring space there.
Yeah. And to some extent, I mean, that goes into sort of the idea of like creating those integrations, automations that allow for that to be seamless and doesn't require a lot of user input. And of course, is that more of a DIY sort of play, or is that professional install, or both?
Yeah, we're more of on the DIY space. So Wise is, we're super famous on the economic side, and so we're providing a lot of things at really economic price. So we're more focused on the DIY side.
Yeah. Yeah, and I want to talk more about sort of the more professional install side too. Rule, I know that that's more something where the value proposition is a little bit different. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, I think we see really a very different pattern between the commercial space and the residential space. And in the commercial space, you end up with oftentimes a lot of sensors. Yeah, you can have, if you have like a 20, 30 story office building, you can end up with 100, 150, 200 different sensors. And I'm talking here specifically about water leak sensors in a space like that. And so all of a sudden, it's no longer you get a consumer receives 2 sensors that they can easily put out, install, and themselves. But here now it becomes, okay, where do I set these sensors across this building? And secondly, how do I actually name them? And the naming is actually quite important, maybe not up front, but once you get an alert, yeah, and you get an alert that your sensor in this building is alerting for a water leak, and you've got 200 of them, well, that's not very useful, yeah? So basically making sure that upon installation, the right namings are assigned that typically identify a particular floor, a particular room, a particular area, and so make it a useful name so that when that alert comes in and it says is the sensor on the 3rd floor in the coffee room is alerting, well, that's very specific and it can actually be actioned upon. And that's where we see the combination of the number of sensors combined with the difficulty or the challenge in the proper installation. That's where we see professional installation be a very useful option that we're providing to our customers. But in this case, we do that. It's mostly from a complexity of installation and the size of the installation that really guides that proclivity to actually use the professional installers.
Yeah, that's very good. Andrew, I want to also toss it to you a little bit and ask more about sort of the value that you can bring consumers and how you provide that value with services in smart home on the pet side.
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously, I'm most familiar with IoT in the pet space, but I believe it also has parallels and some applicability to the human space. Also point out, Tractive is a D2C business. So we work directly with our consumer and are very motivated to keep those consumers with us for the lifetime of their pet. I often think of it in terms of kind of Maslow's hierarchy of need. And, in this case, I guess Maslow's hierarchy of pet owner need. And so utility that's kind of at the base level of that pyramid. So keeping your pet safe, physically safe, tends to resonate best with consumers. And that's really what we aim to do. So, keeping those pets safe in real time, and also, addressing that anxiety pet owners might have. Oftentimes, when we research new potential features, perhaps in the health and wellness space, there's a lot that we realize we can identify with the sensors, accelerometers, gyros within the device. That can help people better understand their pet's health trajectory and pet health in the future. But I will say that, for the mass market of consumers, what resonates best and what drives purchase really is that ability to keep your pet safe right now versus looking ahead.
Yeah, thank you for telling us about that, because I do think that there's a lot of, like, if you get on the social media website next door, you'll see a lot of folks asking questions about their pet's health. There are a lot of pets that have gone missing. So yeah, I can definitely see the value there. I want to talk a little bit about pricing models that are successful for connected home services. Starting maybe with Jing, kind of tell us a little bit about the pricing models that you have seen at Wise that have worked, and what you're thinking about in terms of reaching the more mass market with those.
Yes. So I think we provide a lot of affordable kind of hardware devices, and we're using the hardware to do the user acquisition and also the subscriptions and for the monetization. So for the subscription business, I think it's aligned with the whole kind of target users. Our user segments are more of like massive kind of user segments, and then they are very sensitive to the price. So be able to offer different levels of the services and be able to kind of meet different kind of needs of our customers is really key to our subscription business. I think one of the biggest challenges for us is no matter what type of the subscription business or models that you're providing to users, that is the key is to building a long-term relationship with them, because for the subscriptions you're basically winning them like every month. They're making decisions of renew the subscriptions every month or every year, and so the key boils down to how do you continue show the values, and how do you continue make the people to feel the values of your services, and so you can continue doing the business with them.
Great. Yeah. Andrew, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about this as well. With being in the pet space, how are you able to, what kind of models are you able to offer to keep customers sticky, given that it's a little bit of a different type of space?
Yeah, well, we often joke that we're not sure if we're a pet business or a subscription business. But subscriptions are absolutely core to what we do and how we work, right? So our devices have SIM cards in them, just like your mobile phone. They require data connectivity via LTE-M. And that's a huge advantage for us because that analogy makes sense to pet owners, right? And so big believers in subscriptions for really the reason Jing mentioned as well is it aligns the company's values with the consumer's values, right? And the great opportunity with connected devices is those devices can always be getting better, right? You don't need to sell them a new piece of hardware necessarily to roll out an update that adds a new feature or improves an existing feature. So, I think that's a pretty unique alignment that when done well is a real win-win for both sides. I will, from what we've seen, subscriptions can be incredibly challenging to sell if the driver behind it, the rationale, the utility is not clear, and the parallel to an existing subscription, right? So again, we have this advantage of the SIM card, so that connection is clear. The other place, we see it work is when someone has an existing monthly payment they make, and a connected device either makes that more efficient, derives more value out of it, but it's a routine that people have come to expect. If you can't fit into one of those buckets, making the case for why a piece of hardware should be coupled with a subscription is a tough sell.
Yeah, definitely. And I want to talk a little bit more about like some of the process of the installation and where those installations may come with fees. I know that rule, maybe you could speak a little bit to that, given that you oftentimes will go through, say, the insurance space.
Yeah, and it's insurance has its benefits and its downsides. And it's actually interesting. We talk about pricing, we talk about where is the value being created, and there's a real interesting challenge here. The value for insurance carriers when it comes to properties is really in preventing, mitigating water leaks. Yeah, that is the key value creation for the insurance company. Now, on the other hand, when you talk to consumers about water leaks, they cannot be getting excited about that. Yeah, so I compare it to like, how do you get your kids to eat broccoli? Yeah, you can convince them and you can make the argument, you can say how healthy it is, and they're still not going to get excited about it. So how do we get the value creation for the insurance carrier is something that the consumer is not really willing to embrace. And so What do we do with our kids? Well, when we have the broccoli, we have to bring the mac and cheese to the table. Yeah, so bring something that they really can get excited about, and then the broccoli just comes with that. And so in the case of the consumer here in how we work with insurance carriers, is why we expanded our water leak solution, expanded that into a security solution as well. Because over the years, it really has proven out that the killer app for the smart home has really been a professionally monitored security solution. That's what consumers are willing to pay money for. That's what they get excited about. And so bringing a security solution, bringing that together with the water leak sensor package, that now can provide a win-win-win proposition where the consumer is willing to pay something for that security. The carrier is willing to subsidize something here because they get their water leak sensors installed, and that way you can really bring that together. And so it's been a lot of trial and error over the years, but in being able to ultimately come up with a proposition that works for all parties involved, and where you can actually make that win-win-win proposition work.
Yeah. And Dan, in your case, you work with a lot of like the skilled trades, in this process. Tell me a little bit more about kind of what the model is with that and how that works.
Yeah, well, it's funny to talk about the trial and error. I mean, we've been there, done that, and tried. I mean, we tried the freemium model, and it was like, hey, just get a thermostat on the wall, and we'll figure out how to charge for services later. And that, what we've learned is that these companies, especially professional trades companies, are busy. Right? You go to a hot summer day in Phoenix. I mean, today it's 110 degrees, right? I mean, these guys are swamped. It can't be distracting from their business, right? And to try to get an HVAC technician to go and sell smart home, it's not their core business. They don't get, they're not comfortable with that. They can sell an air conditioner all day long, right? Or tell you the value of a humidifier or dehumidifier or air ventilation. But to get them to talk about smart home, it becomes distracting, right? So what we've done is said, here are these kind of natural points where I'm already putting a thermostat in the home. I just sold you a new air conditioner, a new furnace. I'm already putting a thermostat in the home. Let's put the smart thermostat in the house instead of, the standard thermostat. And as far as the service fees go, there's not a lot of people that like that maintenance plan, right? There's a lot of people that will sign up for a maintenance plan because I'm at the moment of pain, you're doing the repair. If I sign up for a maintenance plan, I will get a discount. And it's like, well, you do some quick math and you realize, hey, it's cheaper for me to sign up for the maintenance plan. But then what happens a year later is, hey, nothing's broken. It's like, well, I'll just sign up again when the system's broken. So what we've done is tied the smart home services to that maintenance plan so that when that customer has to come to that decision point of, do I renew? It's like, well, not only, I'm not just losing this intangible thing, which is, they come out and clean my system, but, I'm paying for something like, maybe I can let that stretch a year until the system breaks again. Now they're saying, well, no, now I'm using this connected app. I'm controlling devices in the home. I can expand to everything I want. And it makes that decision much more difficult. And we've seen retention on these maintenance plans go from, an average company is probably 50% retention to north of 90% retention. So it's all about finding that one little point to get that first connected device in the house, make it part of your service plans. And that way you're getting this very interactive, very engaging piece to what would ordinarily be this kind of back of mind thing.
Right. Yeah. That's very good. In the freemium model, not working retroactively to try to move to a paid model makes a lot of sense. It's better to kind of get that out of the way at the very beginning, I would imagine. I want to take a quick audience question that just came in. This question is for Rule. Does Roost install water shutoff valves or just notification-based leak detection?
Yeah, great question. So we do not offer a shutoff valve ourselves. We have partnerships where we bring in another partner to do that. We see the shutoff valve to be a niche that, especially in the consumer market, in the residential market, in some high-end, very high-end residential and or different types of occupation, like whether it's a dorm rooms or maybe some other kinds of occupation. We see a lot of value for these shutoff valves. But the issue specifically as it pertains to homes is that the installation cost and the cost of the device typically is still very, very high compared to the value that it brings. And so we see, and we've done the studies with our insurance partners to be able to actually detect the leak. Most of the leaks, they don't happen, they don't cause your home to flood. Yeah, they're not catastrophic. Some are, yeah, by the way, and those are the ones that you typically hear about. But 80+% of the leaks, they will start very, very slowly. They will be leaking for an hour, a day, even weeks on end before they actually start doing real damage. And that's basically, we're focusing on those kinds of leaks where you can actually find them in the early stages, where you can actually fix the issue, and you'll never file an insurance claim, because even if there's a little bit of damage, because of the deductible involved, you basically don't file that claim. And so that's what the carriers typically are focused on, a very cost-effective DIY type of solution to eliminate the majority of their claims. So that's where that carrier ROI is really coming in from.
Maybe just to add to that, I mean, we actually make a cost-effective flow metering solution with shutoff valve that, again, was point of, you need professional trades to install that. If you don't have somebody who can install that, a plumber, that's licensed, that can and certified in that geography to put it in, it becomes a huge impediment, and that becomes completely cost prohibitive. However, that's why we're trying to chase these plumbers down who are in the house every day, literally fixing leaks. So that's the perfect opportunity to sell these. And we do see that, having integrated flow metering with shutoff it can help expand where the, water sensors are perfect for those high risk areas, but you can cover 100% of kind of that water network inside the house with by being able to do flow metering.
Yeah, just want to add on to that. One of the challenges with flow metering is that you're actually monitoring the supply lines. You're not monitoring the waste lines. And so one of the benefits of the puck style or the localized detection that you see is, for example, a sump pump in a finished basement or under your kitchen sink or behind that washing machine. The issue can be as much from the waste lines as it is from the supply lines. And so we really are more comprehensive in that respect. And it's oftentimes not an either or. If you want to be perfect and you want to catch all the leaks, well, bring everything to the table, right? Every single solution. But it's something like where you're looking at the biggest bang for your buck. Yeah, what is cost effective to cover as many leaks as that can happen.
Yeah, very good. I want to jump really quickly to another question on my list here. We're seeing, of course, more consumers that are entering the middle market who may not necessarily be very tech savvy. And how does the middle market consumer change the game for your company, Jing?
Yeah, so we do see, because our company vision is trying to make the technology accessible to everyone, so we do see a lot of people are adopting the smart home and security kind of, DIY security monitoring plans for them. We do see, like, rather than middle market, but also we're seeing like the seniors, and we see the the young females who adopting our product and then plan and service plans for them. So I think once we cross I think one thing we did really well is in trying to build the word of mouth. I think Wise is really good at building the communities and building the user groups, and then so user could talk to each other and could do a really good referrals. So I think in terms of when they come into the early majorities, when we cross the chasm, I think the early majorities tend to using the referrals for a purchase decision. I think when you really build a credibilities and build a really good word of mouth, and you have that favors into users. I think in terms of the changes or challenges that when we're shifting from the tech savvy from early adopters into early majorities, I think it comes in with three aspects. One is that use case is going to change because originally people are looking for one solution solving, and then one problem solutions. But now, like with a really lower price for the security monitoring or for the security cameras, they could unlock a lot of use cases, such as we have users looking at the 3D monitoring. or using the monitoring, using the cameras and watch the bird, right? So all these use case changes. So we have to stay focused on, what is the major problem we're trying to solve for users? As Andrew mentioned before, like, when we go through the hierarchy of the needs, we understand, like, the basic needs that people are looking for are still to the physical, the security, like feel protected. I think that's one thing. The other thing is notification fatigue. I know it's not unique for the middle market, but it's going to be, easily a big problem for the middle market because the early majorities could do early adopters and could have some tolerance for that. So how do you do extra steps and to say, hey, we're going to do the customization for you? Like in some certain cases, we send you the push notifications. In some cases, we send you the critical alerts, or in some cases that we are doing the serum for you, like to deterring the intrusion or deterring some of the cases. So I think that's the second. The third one is the how do you because those users are not very tech savvy. So how do you make the user interfaces really easy for people? I think that's also very crucial. So I think one of the we got a lot of inspirations from professional monitoring security companies, and so recently we just adopted their multi-camera timeline from the professional one. So now, like, if you are a WISE user, you have like multiple cameras, so you could be able to see all your past events in just one timeline. So I think the solution is that looking forward, look around and then looking for inspirations and borrow from like other industries, and then to make the user interface really easy for users.
Yeah. Andrew, I wanted you to talk to me a little bit about that as well, just a little bit about how you basically market that to the early majority users who may have pets, but may not necessarily be the most tech savvy in that space.
Yeah, and Jing touched on my points as well, but just to expand a little bit. So, Tractive from the outset was really purposefully designed and positioned to be for the mass market of pet owners, right? We did not want to, focus on really tech savvy users, in part because pets are most often going missing in suburban and rural areas. They're far less likely to escape from, a condo on the 10th floor of a building, behind a door, behind an elevator, behind a door, right? So by necessity. So, I think first and foremost, it needs to be incredibly intuitive. It needs to work just as well for, your grandmother who asked you to program your VCR, as, someone who is comfortable with technology. We see huge concentrations of customers in agricultural areas, right? Pets who are in unfenced properties. So needs to be intuitive, needs to be very straightforward in that regard. From a positioning and marketing standpoint, I think something that's often, when you work in technology and you're surrounded by technologists, a lot of us get excited about the possibilities of devices, right? So all the different, use cases but when it comes to marketing, when it comes to putting it in front of the consumer, they really want it to solve a specific problem, right? And the other problems it may solve could be value add. But if you're selling a Swiss Army knife, something that can do anything and everything, a lot of consumers are overwhelmed by that, right? They don't want that. They want the thing that's going to fix the thing. We think that's critical to be, very focused in that. And I'll add one other point. Focus is also really helpful because over time you get better and better and better at doing that one thing well, right? So we've seen a lot of general purpose GPS trackers sort of enter the space, and it's track your kid, track your bike, track your car, track your pet, right? And the price point can be compelling. That sort of flexibility sounds compelling. But what it means is they're spread really thin in terms of, the really optimizing for one of those use cases. And it makes a difference.
Yeah, that's great. I want to take one more audience question before we wrap up. And this is, I think I'll start out with maybe Dan or Rule, if you could speak to this. Why not work with existing security companies to provide added services such as connecting, such like a security integrator with an HVAC company or insurance company? I think that's probably, I don't know if you could speak to that. It sounds like that on some level you may be working with those already, but I don't know, maybe Dan, if you can start off with that and maybe Rule.
Yeah, I mean, we do. So, we kind of have two channels that we play in. So we're working with security dealers right now to offer HVAC monitoring as a service. So we actually have a program we call Pro HVAC Monitoring, where if you are a security customer and you put a thermostat, or security contractor, and you put a thermostat in somebody's house, we then pair you with a local HVAC company so that when an alert comes up, because if you're a security company, you do not want that phone call, hey, my thermostat's broken. Right. And it's never the thermostat, it's the air conditioning, it's the furnace that's broken. You want somebody who can handle that call. So we've actually put those services together, and we've had a handful of markets where we've done this, and now we're expanding that nationwide to try to tie back in the security provider with the local trades company.
Great.
Yeah,
Rule,
speak to that. So we don't typically work with existing security providers. So in some ways, we're competitive with that. Where I would say what we're offering is, I would call it an entry-level security solution. We do not include cameras. We do not include other types of services. And if you think about it from the overall addressable market, you're looking today, and I don't know what the latest number is, 25-30% of the households have a professional monitored security solution. That means that there is 70% that have nothing or are relying on their dog or a gun, to put a fine point to it. So it's one of those, but all of those, all 100% have insurance. Yeah, and so by definition, we are going, by working with our insurance carriers, we're going mass market from day one, or we have been going mass market from day one. And we think an entry-level solution there is what's going to, because it is going to be the most cost-effective based on the subsidization or the discount that the carrier is able to provide. And so that we see that as a stepping stone. It's like we're in some ways we are not even competing, because we're not even competing for the same customers. But it's a completely different solution than what traditional security dealers or security providers are offering into the marketplace. So we actually see ourselves more as a stepping stone to get people to broaden the market, get more people interested in professional monitored security, and over time, as their situation changes, as they get a bigger home and so on and so forth, they will upgrade to other types of solutions, and that's just fine. We don't see any issue with that.
Great. Well, we are coming to the end of our time here. I could talk about this all day, but unfortunately we can't. But I do want to kind of leave room for one more question and maybe take about 30 to 45 seconds to talk about this. I wanted to ask about kind of what the future is looking like in terms of the offerings, especially to reach this new middle market. Maybe start off with Andrew. Tell me a little about what the future is, and it could include even like the future of what your company is working on as well.
Yeah. Well, I think there are some very exciting technologies that are emerging now when it comes to connectivity, outside of the home. So cell to satellite is one. So there are a host of players in that space, Starlink being one of them, SpaceX being one of them, Blue Origin being one of them. And at this point, the costs are really high, but eventually there really will be cost-effective, ubiquitous connectivity via cell to satellite around the world. And that'll be a real game changer in a lot of different ways. So maybe I'll leave it at that.
Great. And now maybe, Jing, if you could give your take on that as well, maybe the future of it, of services, the next opportunity in the smart home.
Yeah, So as I mentioned, like in the past, since I think convenience and also security monitoring is still our two kind of major focus in this one. We're also looking for all kinds of like innovation technologies and how to make it easier, how to make the extra values into users. I think one of the biggest challenges that once the massive like market is adopting the new technologies such as AI detections or person detections that become a new norm for most of the services. What is the next areas that we should looking for to provide to users as a new service value? I think when we look at that, how to make the convenience, how to make the home even more smarter, how to make the home like even more secure than before. By leveraging, the AIs or video search or video analysis or video verification. I think all the efforts are, placing a hand and then trying to help people, try to help us and to bring more values into users.
Great. And Rule, maybe if you could speak next on that topic.
Sure, and I'll keep it close to home here. I think the concept and the value of water leak sensors in homes has been proven out over the past few years. We've done studies, other companies have done studies to actually prove the benefits of that. But if you look at it, the penetration of these types of solutions is still incredibly low. I think we're probably guessing in a couple of percentages across all households in the US. So I think there is a real opportunity here to grow that market. I think finally, it's taken a long time, but finally there is insurance companies that are actually starting to embrace this and starting to make this part of their offering, which will ultimately help in growing that segment. But it's not sexy, but it's a high value area, and I think we're finally at the point where some major companies are already adopting it, and where we will see more adoption here over the next few years. Is that going to happen in the next year or 2 years? It's probably more in the next 5 to 10 years, I would say. But it's that's just the pace of adoption. I think that's just the reality.
Great. And Dan, I'll let you leave us with the last word.
All right. Well, I mean, for us, it's really about how do we simplify, right? From everything from using AI to identify problems quickly. And then on the other side of that is how do we break this down so that, a consumer and a trades company can easily talk and communicate to say, I have a broken system, I need help. Can you get somebody out here to fix it? So really that focus on simplicity of install and the entire workflow of how can people communicate is really the areas that we're looking at of kind of the next generation of simplicity and kind of technology to make things easier for these trades companies.
All right. Well, thank you all for this great panel. It was really an amazing discussion, and I hope to have you all back soon, in some capacity or another. So thank you to all the panel. We'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Well, that concludes this particular virtual session of our 28th Annual Connections Conference. You can join us in December for our next virtual session, December 12th to be exact, of our Smart Home Future Outlook for 2025. And we've also announced our 2025 dates for our in-person Connections Conference, May 13th through 15th at the Renaissance Dallas at Plano Legacy. So book your tickets now to attend that session. It'll be a great opportunity to meet experts in the field, executives in the field, and hear a lot about the great things happening, as well as the data points that we are collecting from consumers. If you're interested in any of our custom marketing services, try to get your company's information out there, your point of view, along with our consumer research. Talk to us a little bit about our white papers, webinars, and podcasts. We also have a number of other virtual experiences and at least a couple more in-person opportunities to talk to us and to attend our conferences this year. Check out our website for more information on all of these. And if you're interested in any of our services, Reach out to some of these folks listed here, Ashton for sponsorships, Jason for research, and Mindy Sue for speaking opportunities. And thanks again to our sponsors for sponsoring this year's Connections Conference. It's been a great year so far, and you made it all possible. Thank you all, and see you next time.